Well, I guess I'll be upholding my New Year's resolution to poke the bear. So, here we are again. And somewhat against my better judgment, I'm going to do something of a follow-up to my toxic fandom video from last year. Now, in that one, my focus was primarily on where I kind of consider the line to be. You know, when mere disapproval or disappointment in a piece of entertainment turns into something truly problematic. So mainly I was talking about the actions of fandoms. I touched on some of the reasoning behind those actions, but I wanted to do a little bit more of that and drill into that a bit more closely here. Again, I'm going to attempt to handle this in broad strokes and only cite specific examples if I feel it's truly necessary or just illustrates the point in a more succinct fashion. Because last time, as I expected, whatever specifics I did cite became points of debate in the comments, while, the larger picture would go unaddressed, and I expect the same now. I hope for better. I don't expect it. Now, since that last video, I've lightly taken a look at some of the more passionate ends of a few different fandoms. And I do mean very lightly, but even a cursory view like the one I took led me to notice something I hadn't really properly taken on board before. And that's the linking of opinions to beliefs. By this, what I mean is, in the realm of online fandom and punditry, an opinion is rarely taken at face value as just that, the opinion of an individual. Instead, there's frequently a series of extrapolations about what the person who holds that opinion is like as an individual. So speaking personally, over the years, I've made more than a few very nice comments about various Marvel properties, and not as many about DC ones. And the extrapolation of that is that I'm a Marvel fanboy who hates DC for that reason and automatically love absolutely everything that Marvel does. The possibility that most DC properties of late simply haven't appealed to me on a case-by-case basis isn't even considered as an option. And instances of my not loving Marvel projects or enjoying DC ones are needfully ignored, though it's probably just as likely that those accusing me don't even look for such things in the first place. But now that initial extrapolation, honestly, it's not the most unfair assumption one could make, misguided and oversimplistic though it may be. But the thing is, it doesn't stop there. Because Marvel is owned by Disney, that means I'm a Disney shill who has absolutely no problem with how much that company is buying up and controlling when it comes to intellectual property, and I support all presumed agendas of said company because I like Marvel movies. I mean, think about it. This is not that far off from saying, I like cheddar cheese, and whoever you're talking to then assumes that you therefore support corporate farming and the Monsanto Corporation who benefits from it, and you gleefully laugh at the plight of the lactose intolerant. We don't allow for simple taste anymore when it comes to entertainment. It's no longer allowable to approve of a movie or show or comic book without also approving of the business philosophy of the parent company and those who even tangentially benefit from it, apparently. So, for an additional example, there's what's been going on in Doctor Who fandom. Now, I continue to maintain that the extremists on either side of the supposed fan divide are actually in the minority, but I can't deny that I've certainly seen plenty of this going on in that fandom. So, it can't simply be taken as an honest opinion or preference that one either does or doesn't care for Jodie Whittaker as the 13th Doctor. If you don't like her, or Series 11, the most recent one that aired, then you're a misogynist and probably a #NotMyDoctor type who wants the show to be canceled and rails against any expansion of diversity in any medium. Or, if you do like her, or Series 11, you're an SJW misandrist shill for the BBC who only cares about diversity quotas and cares nothing about the quality of the actual finished product. Both of those extrapolations are equally big leaps, and I'm not going to go so far as to say that there aren't some people out there who would actually fit those full descriptions. The problem is the assumptions, the full assumptions, are being made about anybody who expresses that initial opinion of liking or not liking Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor. And evidence that the rest of it is also true is not required. And that is what elevates the anger that comes into the equation. Because if you actively hate somebody for an opinion, a mere matter of taste, well, you're just being a jerk. I mean, let people like what they like. What's your problem? However, it's far more acceptable at present to hate someone for their greater political, social, or religious philosophies. Because an opinion is just an opinion. But philosophies are tied to actions that you may find admirable or deplorable, and therefore philosophies are something you are more comfortable taking a strong stance for or against. So all you have to do is tie an opinion to a greater life outlook that offends you, and that clears your headspace to express extreme responses over personal opinions. Let's pause and ask the question, how did we even get here? I'm not really sure I'm up to the task of reverse engineering this entire phenomenon, but what I can tell you is when I first noticed it. I remember when Nintendo launched the Wii in 2006, which was basically around the time that I began winding down my own active gaming, a combination of not enough free time and not enough disposable income. Now, of course, console wars were nothing new. I mean, I was right there in the old Sega versus Nintendo days, but there was something a little different about the launch and the subsequent mega success of the Wii. I watched as this one console became inextricably tied to its audience. And I don't mean Nintendo fans. I mean more casual gamers. The concept of casual gaming wasn't exactly brand new in 2006, but I don't remember the term being so loaded and filled with derision prior to the Wii launch. Suddenly, a battle line was drawn, and to own or enjoy the Wii was to support a wave of gaming that to many was simply unacceptable. So, to them, it wasn't enough to just not buy a Wii because it wasn't making the kind of games you liked. Oh, no. You had to hate it for what it represented and for daring to cater to an audience that you had no relation with or affinity for. All of a sudden, you were either casual, playing Wii and phone games with no interest or care for the progress of the medium or deep gameplay or overcoming difficult challenges, or you were hardcore. You shunned motion controls, you went all in on the most violent, most challenging games available because it was the opposite of what the Wii was doing. No middle ground anymore, because a matter of personal taste became tied to a certain kind of audience. Oh, and Lord help you if you liked both casual and hardcore games. You better be prepared to keep one of those interests to yourself, lest you be called out and mocked for it. I feel that this way of viewing opinions has kind of seeped into everything, and people will vocally support or denigrate something not for its artistic merits, but for what they feel it represents. So the problem with Doctor Who isn't really Jodie Whittaker. It's the idea that casting her was done to appeal to progressives who weren't even watching the show before. And the problem with not liking Jodie Whittaker isn't how well she does or doesn't fit the part. It's the idea that not supporting the casting lumps you in with reactionaries who rail against any change whatsoever in the world as they know it. You can't like something that's liked by people you disagree with. And you can't dislike something that is approved by the people you share affinity with. Thus, the echo chamber grows on all sides. This came up in the last video I did on toxic fandom because I mentioned my own enjoyment of the film 300, despite my fundamental disagreement with many of the philosophies that underscore the characters and arguably the film as a whole. And unsurprisingly, there were a few folks who tried to take me to task for that, because if I don't agree with fascist philosophies, I have absolutely no business expressing enjoyment for a film that is believed to espouse those same philosophies, no matter how great I feel the film actually is. I really noticed this undercurrent in videos, the kind, you know the kinds. They have titles like, "Why You Should Hate," insert property name here. Now, these are the kinds of things that I actively avoid because I really can't stand the starting premise, just of the title of these things. I mean, there are plenty of things I hate, and I'll rant about them sometimes, but when I do, my focus, I try very hard to just be giving the reasons that I have for loving or hating something, not giving reasons that anybody else should, or insisting that because of these reasons, other people should hate it as well. Anyway, when I actually tried to watch some of these videos in preparation for doing this topic, I noticed this very thing that I'm talking about here, that the reasons why you should hate something is because of the philosophies of those who made it and the principles of the audience it's meant to appeal to, be they real or imagined by the video creator. You should hate the new Doctor Who because it's diversity casting for its own sake. You should hate the old She-Ra because there was only one female body type, which reinforced unrealistic beauty standards to impressionable young people. And it doesn't matter what the quality of the finished product is or whether or not you draw entertainment from it. These are the objective reasons that you and anyone else should hate it. Objective with the biggest pulsating question marks possible around it, because it's become one of those words that has been misused to the point of it's just lost any proper meaning. Now, I'm not actually going to say that there's no value in taking stock in what kind of people share your opinions. Actually, I think it's healthy every now and then to kind of pause and metaphorically, look to your left, look to your right, and sort of just check the company you're keeping when you go to the rally for the cause you've taken up, so to speak. I know I had to do that back when the Ghostbusters reboot happened. Now, I was extremely bitter because I love the original and could not see any reason why this was a continuity reset instead of a continuation. And I really hated that Sony was effectively saying, that's not Ghostbusters anymore, this is Ghostbusters. But I found myself sharing my negativity with people who were just shouting, girls can't be Ghostbusters! And frankly, that made me uncomfortable. I think it helped my own headspace to take stock of myself, examine my own reasoning for my feelings so that I could feel confident that I wasn't coming from that same place. Because, that opinion never changed. I still have it. The new Ghostbusters, it was okay for the record, but there truly was no reason for it to not have been a continuation, so my annoyance at that remains. But that sort of taking stock moment, it also prepared me for people who were still going to lump me in with the group that I'd rather not be lumped with, because I looked around at some of the others in this whole the reboot is a stupid idea crowd and realized, yeah, I'm going to need to be prepared to explain why I'm over here. But to some people that won't matter because nuance is a dwindling resource, and I also recognize that some people will liken what I just described as being like going to a white nationalist rally while saying, but I'm not racist, because the end result is still support for that agenda. But then that circles back to my original point, doesn't it? Because opinions have become agendas, and you can't hold an opinion on a piece of entertainment without supporting one agenda or another. You will be judged for that agenda. As the anger towards a broader group or movement or philosophy as a whole gets funneled down and hurled at any individual who enjoys a piece of media that certain groups like or dislike. We've politicized entertainment, and while I would actually be one to argue that all art is inherently political no matter what, that's the kind of conversation that used to only crop up in discussions about the art itself, not in the likes or dislikes of the audience. I mean, we've all heard the cries that movies didn't used to be political, but they are now. I don't think we do that right. I think we honestly need to be pointing that finger right back at ourselves, because we have turned our entertainment into politics way more than the makers of our entertainment have, and I do not exempt myself from that, to be clear. I'm not sure if any of this is reversible, and I don't have a clue how to go about it, even if it is. But it's one of those things that I try and keep straight in my own head. To not judge too harshly on an entertainment preference. And more importantly, to not make sweeping assumptions about a person based on a single opinion about a piece of entertainment. I have a friend who's actually quite good at this. He won't watch anything with Ed Asner, because Ed Asner is a 9/11 truther, and that gives my friend just an icky feeling about the guy's presence. So he just won't see things with Asner in them. That's a choice he's made, and politics were part of his calculation in making that choice. But he doesn't then assume that anyone who liked Pixar's Up, in which Asner played the lead, is themselves a 9/11 truther. I mean, just extend a little benefit of the doubt. Don't assume that someone does or doesn't like something for the worst possible reason there is to like or dislike it. Unless, of course, they themselves make it clear that that is the reason that they like or dislike it. But dealing with that is a whole other thing. I think I've jabbered on enough for today. So I'll wrap it up there. The shifting of opinions, that all opinions now carry political weight, and that we judge a piece of entertainment by our belief about the audience it is intended for. Thoughts on any of this? Have I made any sense? Whatever your thoughts are, and as always, I know this could be a heated talking point, but try and be respectful, please. Whatever your thoughts may be, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. A whole bunch of stuff down there as well, because there's buttons and there's links, including one to the Patreon, if you feel like supporting me and content like this in the future. A whole bunch of other links besides that too. Check them out if you want to. If you don't, that's okay, because at the end of the day, folks, you're the council. I just run the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.